the floating city, the city of canals, and land of sunburnt tourists in gondola traffic jams. Call it what you will, but the iconic city of Venice, Italy is one of those spectacular places known the world over, therefore requiring little introduction from me. But what is there to actually do in Venice? You know, apart from sweat, get lost, and cry in a gondola. Well, in today's video, I'll be sharing the best things to do in Venice, Italy, divided by sestiere, or neighborhood for ease of planning. Stick until the end and you'll also get access to a free map I created that pins all the locations mentioned in this video. Now, in case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com, and this channel is all about practical travel advice from someone who's been there, done that. So be sure to like and subscribe if that sounds like your kind of thing. Now, before we break down activities by neighborhood, let's start with a rundown of quintessential Venice experiences. The first for me is a non-negotiable, and that's to explore Venice early in the morning, preferably at sunrise. While Venice is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, its two main drawbacks are the crowds and heat. Luckily, waking up early to explore the city is an easy solution to all these problems. I once did a sunrise tour in peak season and loved it, but trust me, you can have just as good a time exploring on your own. No doubt, hitting the main sites early before the day trip crowds arrive is key to appreciating all the scenery in a stress-free way. Exploring early can also give you a behind-the-scenes look at what exactly it takes to manage a city built on water. From boats full of laundry to garbage collection via canal, which, if you're a nerd like me, is super interesting. The second must-do is to, of course, admire Venice from the water. This is a no-brainer as a city built on water, but there's truly nothing like seeing Venice from this perspective, whether from one of the iconic Venetian gondolas, from one of the city's many water buses, or on board a private water taxi. The most iconic Venice experience is, of course, to enjoy a gondola ride. And while I do think it's something nice to do once, you do need to plan properly and have your expectations in check, because visitors are oftentimes left disappointed since the experience wasn't exactly as they hoped. For instance, if you go at peak periods, you're basically stuck in a smelly gondola traffic jam the entire time. An experience that you pay a significant fee for because sadly, yes, gondola rides are quite expensive. So, to make the most of your experience, try to go in the morning before crowds descend and gondoliers get grumpy. And also try to board in quieter areas as well. Now, do note that prices for gondolas are fixed, so there's no room for negotiation. According to the official City of Venice regulations, gondolas can fit up to 5 adults at once, and as of 2024 cost a fixed rate per boat of €90 for a 30-minute ride during the day, and €110 at night. Oh, and don't expect every gondolier to sing. For a more immersive experience on the water, you can also consider taking a rowing class, available through Row Venice, which gives you much more time on the water for a similar price point. Or, for an extremely quick but very affordable taste of Venice's gondola experience, you can hop on a traghetto. These boats have a capacity of about 12 passengers, making them larger than traditional gondolas, but they whisk passengers across the Grand Canal for the rock-bottom price of €2 for tourists, meaning you could ride it back and forth 45 times for the price of one scenic gondola ride. Sure, the experience isn't the same, and I warn you, the ride is over in less than a minute. But for the price of a bottle of water, it's definitely not bad. Another relatively affordable option is simply admiring the views from Venice's extensive vaporetto or water bus network. Catching the first water bus from the airport, we practically had the whole boat to ourselves. Whereas later in the afternoon another day, there were so many people that we gave up and decided to just walk instead. The most scenic route, though, is known to be the number 1 line, which goes along the Grand Canal. To maximize your chances at getting a good spot, be sure to board at the Piazzale Roma stop, which is the first stop because the next one is the train station, which is often super busy. Now, next on our list of quintessential Venice must-dos is to gorge yourself on Venetian cicchetti. These bite-sized dishes are Venice's answer to tapas. And, best of all, are just €1 to €3 each, so they don't break the bank. First-time visitors often come to Venice and eat generic Italian dishes they're familiar with from home, like pizza or spaghetti bolognese. But when in Venice, you should try Venetian classics. And it doesn't really get more Venetian than cicchetti. You can typically find these at a Venetian tavern known locally as a baccaro, of which there are many. Some popular cicchetti to try include sardine sar, which are fried sardines served with vinegar and onion, crostini, toasted pieces of fresh bread topped with different spreads and toppings, and polpette, fried meatballs, or crocchette fritte, fried croquettes filled with potato, cheese, or sometimes fish. All right, now let's tackle things to do in San Marco, the touristic heart of Venice. First, of course, is to see the main sights of St. Mark's Square, or as it's known in Italian, Piazza San Marco. Known as the true heart of the city, it's impossible to visit Venice without admiring the grandeur of this majestic sweeping square, lined with some of the city's most iconic landmarks. Though I would strongly suggest doing this early in the morning or late at night to avoid the inevitable crowds. In and around this ultra-busy square, you'll find some of Venice's top sights, including the Palazzo Ducale, or Doge's Palace, which is the glitzy former residence of the Doges who led the Republic of Venice, as well as St. Mark's Basilica, an architectural marvel known for its mesmerizing Byzantine mosaics and rich history of over 1,200 years. And of course, there's St. Mark's Campanile, the tallest structure in the city at almost 99 meters high. A quick elevator ride here transports you to the most incredible view that Venice has to offer, with all the city and Venetian lagoon in view, soaring towers, red rooftops, faraway islands, and all. Though be warned, the lineups for all the attractions in this square can be atrocious, so definitely come early to avoid wasting time in line. While you're taking photos and dodging pigeons in St. Mark's Square, don't forget to check out the impressive clock located on the northern side of the square. This is St. Mark's Clock Tower, which dates back to the 15th century and shows not just the time, but also the phases of the moon and the signs of the zodiac. Fun fact, it is possible to tour the inside by pre-booking, so be sure to look into it if you're interested in that kind of thing. Fair warning though about St. Mark's Square. I'd advise against eating or drinking here or anywhere in the nearby streets. The restaurants in this area are known as some of the worst tourist traps in Venice, with extortionate prices like €16 for a cappuccino in the middle of the square. So do know that your money will go much farther elsewhere, and be sure to always have a quick read of reviews for places before you go. For this though, you of course need data access, something I highly recommend having in Venice so you can easily read reviews and do research on the go. On my recent trip, I used Airlo, my go-to provider for eSIMs and also this week's sponsor. If you're looking for a quick and easy solution for data access, eSIMs are surprisingly hassle-free. Standing for Embedded SIM, eSIMs are pre-installed on your device and work 100% digitally to connect you with local telecom networks as soon as you land. Using the Airlo app, you can easily browse and buy eSIMs for over 200 countries and regions around the world, without needing to deal with roaming fees or switching physical SIM cards in and out. Best of all, you're connected right away, which was very handy in Venice for checking things like the water bus schedule and getting tickets as soon as our plane landed. So if you're ready to try Airlo out, you can scan this QR code for a link to download the app, and use this code right here to get a discount off your first purchase. You can also check out my complete Airlo guide for step-by-step instructions on how to set it all up. Now, thanks again to Airlo for sponsoring this week's video. Now let's move on to another mysterious must-do near St. Mark's Square, and that's to check out the Bridge of Sighs. so named for the sad sigh that prisoners would give as they looked out at beautiful Venice for the last time before being thrown into prison, or worse, executed. Today, it's an iconic Venice photo op and definitely worth a quick stop. Now, speaking of bridges, another busy Venice must-do is to admire Rialto Bridge, or Ponte di Rialto. Stretching over the impressive Grand Canal, this historic stone bridge is actually the canal's oldest, dating back to the 16th century. One of its unique selling points is that it's lined with shops and provides beautiful views of the canal. To be honest though, I like the experience of looking at the bridge far more than I like the experience of walking across it. It can get so packed with people in the middle of the day that you can't appreciate it at all. So again, try to time this one for an earlier morning visit. Now, a very underrated vantage point for admiring the bridge is from the Fondaco dei Tedeschi, which has a free rooftop terrace that offers some of the best views that the city has to offer, all for free. The catch is you do need to book a time slot in advance, which can prove difficult as they sell out almost instantly. So be sure to check for new ticket drops 21 days in advance and refresh plenty on the day of too. I actually managed to secure 2 last-minute tickets this way. Now, to be honest with you, the area connecting the tourist hotspots of San Marco and Rialto is probably one of my least favorite parts of the city, with sweaty crowds and tourist-trapped shops and restaurants in abundance. So after exploring the main sites, my top recommendation is to get out of there as soon as possible. The western half of San Marco, for instance, has considerably fewer tourists, but no shortage of nice sights. As a sucker for a spiral staircase, one of my favorites is at the Palazzo Contarini del Bovolo. Dating back to the 15th century, this palace's main highlight is its dramatic multi-arch staircase ripped straight from the pages of a fairy tale. With some of the best views over Venice's iconic rooftops, this is a great stop for your itinerary if you love a good photo op. There's also a small exhibition space inside as well, but let's be honest, the views are the real star of the show. Just be sure to book your ticket well in advance. Elsewhere in this part of San Marco, there are many other places to discover as well, including the impressive Teatro La Fenice, an enchanting opera house known for its opulent interiors and world-class productions. And of course, because it's Venice, there's also many more churches here. Now, while it's great to explore more offbeat parts of San Marco, there's of course much more to Venice than just this neighborhood. So let's move across the Rialto Bridge for our next must-do, which is to explore San Polo. Beyond the Rialto area, this sestiere has a number of unique attractions that most tourists miss, and ones that I really enjoyed on my most recent visit. The first is the impressive Scuola Grande di San Rocco, a must-see for Renaissance fangirls. This building is a treasure trove of Tintoretto's masterpieces, with the real showstopper being the Sala Capitolare on the upper floor, which has some spectacular paintings on the ceiling and all around the room. If you come just before closing like we did, you might even get the whole room to yourself. Next door is another interesting attraction that really caught me off guard, the Leonardo da Vinci Interactive Museum, which was filled with all sorts of unique displays, including faithful reproductions of many of Da Vinci's inventions, as well as sketches, journal entries, and weirdly engaging videos. Do note that this is the Da Vinci Interactive Museum in Campo San Rocco. Weirdly, we saw another Da Vinci exhibition at the Church of St. Barnaba, with a big sign saying that this was the original, so I do suspect there might be some Da Vinci Museum-related feud going on in Venice, but nonetheless, I am not getting involved. Next on our list is to explore Cannaregio. While within walking distance to most of Venice's main sites, this neighborhood in the north of historic Venice has a fraction of the crowds that you'll encounter in San Marco. Those who make the trip up here, though, are treated to a wealth of unique sites that are easy to discover on foot, like the Casa del Tintoretto, a pretty pink house that was once home to the famous painter, as well as the Chiesa della Madonna dell'Orto, where he's buried. There's also the Ponte Chiodo, which is actually the last bridge in the historic center of Venice with no handrails. And what is possibly the most beautiful supermarket in the world, the Dispar Teatro Italia, which is housed in a converted Neo-Gothic and Art Nouveau movie theater. CANNAREGIO is also where you can find Venice's Jewish ghetto, the first of its kind in Europe, which is the neighborhood where the city's Jewish population was forced to live in segregation during the Venetian Republic. Today, the ghetto is home to 5 synagogues, 2 of which can be visited on a tour, as well as the Jewish Museum of Venice. Honestly though, I find it's nice to just walk around the neighborhood, taking in the sights from the outside, and peering through all the bakery windows. The vibe here feels very different from the rest of the city, so it's definitely worth checking out. Of course, one of my favorite things about CANNAREGIO is how you can actually stumble upon surprises no guidebooks talk about, something I thought would be impossible in a city like Venice. During my most recent trip, for instance, I found myself at the Scuola Grande della Misericordia, where there was an incredible free exhibition from Chinese artist Zheng Fanji. There was also a unique display of 31 handcrafted dioramas depicting the life of Jesus, available with entry by donation at the Chiesa di Santa Maria Maddalena. Best of all, there were no crowds at these experiences at all, something again that I didn't think would be possible. So be sure to pencil in some time around CANNAREGIO on your trip. You definitely won't regret it. Another lovely neighborhood to explore in Venice is Castello. While again only steps away from the main sites, there are tons of beautiful gems here to explore, with a sure guarantee of getting lost thanks to its network of narrow and confusing streets. This is the neighborhood I stayed in during my most recent trip, and I loved just walking around and soaking in the views, with the Leaning Tower of San Giorgio dei Greci making a frequent appearance. The western part of the Sestiere has plenty of interesting sights for visitors, from mask ateliers to beautiful shops. My personal favorite being the Libreria Acqua Alta, one of the most beautiful bookstores in the world. Famed for its whimsical book displays in bathtubs and gondolas, along with its elegant courtyards decorated with stacks of books ruined by Venice's infamous high tide floods. Granted, the secret is definitely out about this place, and it's no longer the quiet gem it once was. So come as soon as they open if you can, and remember, at the end of the day, this is a bookstore. So do your best to support the shop by buying a book, and don't just come for a photo. Another unique site to admire, hopefully just from the outside, is the city's beautiful General Hospital, Ospedale SS Giovanni e Paolo, probably one of the prettiest hospitals in the world. There's also the oft-overlooked church next door, which is where 25 former doges of Venice are buried. Now, the eastern half of Castello is considerably more residential, but a highlight for those who time their visit properly would be a visit to the Arsenale, once a powerful shipyard and naval depot that is today periodically open to the public for special exhibitions and cultural events, most famously the Venice Biennale, an international art exhibition held every 2 years. This neighborhood is also home to the Naval Historical Museum of Venice, where you can learn more about Venice's naval history. All in all though, Castello is full of great little spots. So my best recommendation is to just wander around and preferably grab a drink when you want a break, like I did at the beautiful Campo Santa Maria Formosa. In the south of Venice's historic center, there's another great must-see neighborhood, especially for art lovers, and that's Dorsoduro. All around this neighborhood, you'll find a number of important art museums and galleries, including the Peggy Guggenheim collection, which is set in an enchanting palazzo, and the Galleria dell'Accademia, home to a remarkable collection of Venetian masterpieces, including works by celebrated artists like Tiziano and Tintoretto. Of course, this gallery is located next to the iconic bridge of the same name, which has one of the best postcard views of Venice. And it was also where we enjoyed yet another scenic little drink full of people and dog watching. You can also spot a real-life Banksy in this neighborhood, the Migrant Child, which is painted on the facade of a canal-side house. Finally, for those with the time, another thing to add to your Venice itinerary is to explore other islands in the Venetian lagoon. If I were to pick just one, I'd go for Burano, the whimsical fishing village that's painted in a slew of bright colors, said to be a visual aid in times of extreme fog. No matter the reason, these days Burano is a rainbow wonderland and often considered one of the most colorful destinations in the world. Other options include Murano, which is celebrated for its mesmerizing glass-blowing tradition, San Giorgio Maggiore, where you can enjoy panoramic views of Venice from the church's bell tower, San Michele Cemetery Island, which has been the main cemetery for Venice since 1807, and Lido, the long barrier island on the edge of lagoon, most famous for its beach and hosting the Venice Film Festival. Honestly though, with a city like Venice, you won't run out of new surprises. So be sure to just explore for yourself and see what you can find. Alright, thanks so much for watching. You can click this link here for that map I promised, and let me know in the comments if I've missed any of your favorite Venice activities. I'll see you guys next week.